in addition to the main sorts of equipment that we've been using for rigging silks, we've also got swivels. So what's the advantage to using a swivel?
Yep. So basically, when you're on silks, there's a lot of movement, and there can be a lot of rotational movement on the silks. That's going to cause a torsion on any piece of equipment, the actual attachment at the top. It's going to cause torsion on the silks if there's no swivel in place, and it's going to cause torsion onto the connector that you've got up there and the actual rigging point. So if you have a swivel in place, you don't get that torsion.
Also, you get some new tricks.
And you get some nice tricks, you can make it spin. So swivel's quite good. The thing that most people, when they don't use swivel, when they don't actually use a swivel, it's usually because they've not got the height to put them in. But this one offers you to connect to both sides, but some swivels have got a connector that you can open on one or both sides of it.
Presumably a little bit more expensive.
Thing. They're a bit, well, not a lot more expensive, but they're a little bit more expensive, but that certainly would save you on height because you can connect it directly on.
So some of the other questions that we've seen coming up when it comes to rigging things, if we've got a fairly low rig, under those sorts of circumstances, could you just rig it directly to the top of the rig?
Yep. As long as you've not got any sharp edges, you could. You would have to probably put something on it as a buffer to make sure there was nothing that we could catch in the silks. And then, yes, you could probably just use the prusik knot.
Tie it directly to the top using the prusik knot.
Prusik knot would be quite a safe thing to do.
Very good.
But a wider area better than a narrow thing to tie it over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So one last question. I've seen people attempting to connect these directly to silks.
Yeah, they're not designed for silks. When you've got silks in here, you're getting pressure on the gate because they're not designed to take tension either tri-loading or tension on this part of the carabiner. They're meant to take the load along the major axis. When you put silk in it, because it's wide, it actually effectively tri-loads it.
Three-way loading.
Yeah, basically, and it's pushing on that gate, so that would fail.
But also you've got much more potential for catches in the silks itself, so definitely not recommended for use unless you're connecting it into things like your swivel or your figure of eight or your silk hook.
Yeah.
If we have ended up selecting particularly short silk for the height that we're doing, and we actually want to create more space between our rigging point and the silks itself, what sort of equipment could we use and what should we use?
We can use the normal sort of strops or round slings that we use for rigging in general, and we can also use the climbing slings that you've got there, and that gives you length. Some people want to use daisy chains. There are two different types of daisy chains.
That's a loop chain.
Absolutely. And each single loop on this is individually rated. I would recommend this type over this type of chain.
Using a daisy chain, yeah.
100%. There have been some accidents with this because people rig it wrongly. Number one, when you're on it, it's actually one piece of material that's divided into loops. And if this gives, granted in normal circumstances you would just go down until you reach the end loop, but there's some circumstances where people don't use the whole thing and they fold it back on itself and they hook it on. And in this circumstance, if this gives, you actually end up with the carabiner coming completely out, you're not attached to anything. So best to avoid these and stick with either the one that's got the individual loops, a climbing sling or a strop or a round sling.
Lifting round sling, very good.